So I am doing a crypto update. It's Friday, the 22nd of September, and I get a lot of questions. The biggest question I get all the time is this a bottom yet? Should we be buying Bitcoin yet? Or is it going to go lower? And what is the year-end price for Bitcoin going to be? So I'm going to take a look at those questions today. So first off, this is a weekly chart of Bitcoin. Now, as you know, I'm a trend trader and I use moving averages. So when my moving averages, I now use the 20, 50 and 200. When they're all lined up bullish, it's really easy. You buy pullbacks to these moving averages and you look for it to keep going. And when you get underneath them, as we did in 2021, and you find resistance from them, each bounce becomes an easy sell until you reverse those moving averages. Now, for me, I think with this combination of fib levels and this bottoming pattern that we made an important bottom in November 2022, and the first swing was over in April of 2023, and since then we've been in this sideways correction. We're holding above these lovely weekly moving averages, but the problem with corrections is sometimes, especially if we look at every other bottom that Bitcoin has made, it's always really slow and tricky to get going. People don't trust it. You spend a lot of time, and it's only once it's a really obvious bottom does it really accelerate. And so for me, I'm still looking for potentially a bigger pullback here. And in terms of trading, this is no man's land for me in between these moving averages until we break above them. So for me, that's above 28,000. The risk is that we could still go lower. If we get underneath 24,000, which is this weekly 50 moving average, we could go a lot lower. We could do one of those typical, Bitcoin really deep retraces and even retest the lows. Now, I think a retest of the lows is unlikely, but we could very easily, retest this swing low and this support back here, which is around 21,000 down to 20,000. And if we consider this was our first move off the lows here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Elliott wave will tell you that the most common retrace is back to the bottom of a previous wave 4. And here in Bitcoin, that's 21,500. So we could, I'm going to say, if we break down this sideways range that we are in, we could, if everything goes to hell, see another swing lower, and that's potentially where we get to this previous swing low. So I'm a little bit cautious. And in between here, I'm going to say I'm not sure. Now, if I look lower, short term here, at where we are, potentially, the problem with I always look for big three-wave corrections and then try and trade the reversal of those with the trend. So if we think we're in an uptrend, I was looking for a big three-wave correction, and then a breakout would say we're going up again, this correction is over. I actually think that this is our big three-wave correction here. The thing is, with these daily moving averages, we need to get above them for me to get excited about buying more. And whilst we stay underneath them, there really is the risk that we could go lower. And the thing is with three-wave corrections, so if we see them like this, sometimes when we rally, we only get a three-wave correction the other way. And the reason is we're going to do a bigger three-wave correction. And that's possibly what we're seeing here in Bitcoin. So if we consider this is our big first three-wave correction lower, we've done it, and then this is our second one, then potentially we've gone 1, 2, and we have still got another swing lower, in which case this next swing lower would have a relationship to this first one. So if we measure this first one, so I'm going to say if we break down and we rely on this so if this is our three waves lower, then this gets us back to 20,900, which is around that 20,000 level that I was talking about. So we've got 23,400 for potentially support, and possibly down to 20,000 if we break down here. At the moment though, We haven't broken down. If I put my Heiken Ashi on the daily, though, it does look like we could be rolling over. Back underneath this daily 20 moving average, which we're perched on, would point to a retest of these lows. And underneath 25,000, 25,300, I'm afraid that's where we're going. So for me, I bought the diff here because I thought that this is a really good level. We retested it. It looks like a very nice bounce. But this failure to break out so far has made me a little bit cautious. So the little that I did buy, I'm going to sell if we close back underneath 26,000 on a close. Now, this is a very spiky market. We may have a look underneath, but that's where we are. And potentially for the year end, I don't know. I think if we close above this 50 moving average, we're on our way up and we could end the year back up at the 31,000 highs. However, if we, I doubt that we're going to go all the way into year end sideways at this level. I think it is more likely that we could end up closer to 23,000 or 20,000. So short term, so we'll talk about hourly because in terms of hourly moving averages, we've kind of flipped it here underneath this hourly 200 moving average, underneath this previous swing low. And this is, and I'm afraid, whilst I think we could still, maybe squeak a bit higher, this is still saying a retest of the lows at the very least and potentially lower. If I take a look at this on the 4-hour time frame, we're underneath the 50 moving average, and the risk is that we continue lower to at least the 200 moving average, and potentially, as you know, I say if we close down there, if we close underneath that daily 20 moving average, the risk is that we retest the lows. Now, Bitcoin isn't my favorite short. There are much better alts to be shorting that have much bigger bearish patterns. On the daily, let's I still think that we made an important low at 15,000. I don't think it's going to be broken. This is still a correction and we are still going to go higher from here. So we have to talk about, what might cause that. Now, everyone obviously wants to be bullish because of cycles and the halving. I have to say that I think there's a really strong relationship between crypto and Bitcoin and liquidity and interest rates. If we were, for example, to see a really nasty crash in stock markets and risk, and the Fed started to cut rates or print increased liquidity, bring back QE, I can't believe I'm even saying it, but that would set up the conditions, I think, for a really good bottom in Bitcoin. So yeah, there we are. At the moment for me, in terms of daily moving averages, little bit of no man's land short term underneath this daily 200, unless we can get back above 28,000. I'm afraid I still think that the risk is lower. I got quite excited here about this kind of swing failure, double bottom, but when you get a swing failure pattern, a false breakdown or a false break higher, your first target is always back to the first support and resistance, and back to this daily 50, which is important resistance. We did the same pattern here at 9th of August. Here we are doing it again, and so unless we can get above 28,000, you need to be quite careful with positionings and particularly leverage, because it's not clear to me that we've made a bottom or we're going up again yet. Okay, let's talk about ETH, and particularly I'm going to start with ETH against Bitcoin, because ETH against Bitcoin for me is a really good proxy for altcoins. When ETH is outperforming Bitcoin, we're having altcoin season. When ETH is underperforming Bitcoin, it's usually not good for alts. Quite often it points to a market sell-off, because in sell-offs, Bitcoin tends to outperform other cryptos. Now, big picture, I'm going to take a look at the all-time highs, which are May 2017 to the lows that we made in 2019. We got rejected very firmly at the 50% level. I have a big theory about markets that mean revert. Markets that mean revert or go back 50% tend to keep mean reverting. So when you reverse at a 50% like this, your target is 50% the other way. So ETH Bitcoin, I think, is likely to retest this 50% in a bigger ABC. We've already tested it once. We're doing that bunching up thing. So we did 50%, 50%. This is a classic consolidation. Now, a lot of people are going to look at this and go, oh, is that a head and shoulder? It's not a head and shoulders for me. Very small left shoulder, long extended right shoulder. I just think this is a big ABC correction. And so when I do that, I'm looking for an equal measured move, either the 61.8 or the equal level. And an important thing happened today in this move here in ETH Bitcoin. So as you know, I measure the swings, so I measure this high to this low and project it from this high. I'm looking for a mathematical relationship between the two swings, and in ETH Bitcoin I was looking for 0.0613 to hold as support, and we double bottomed here, but when you double bottom you have to break the high in the middle, and we couldn't. So here on the weekly, this was our sideways range basically, wasn't it? And we couldn't break the highs in the middle here, so no long. Now the problem with this is this 61.8 level now becomes resistance unless ETHBIT gets back above it, above 0.06134. We are likely to continue lower to this equal measured move level at 0.46. So 0.6 to 0.4, that's a 30% loss lower, isn't it? It's a lot lower than where we are now. So this potentially was an important breakdown. I don't know that this is a channel. I've just drawn it like this at the moment. I'm just going to say in terms of support and resistance, then 0.0613 means that I definitely prefer Bitcoin against ETH and altcoins until this can recover. And it's just a proxy, remember, so that doesn't mean that all altcoins are going to be underperform, but it does mean that ETH is going to underperform. So let's take a look at ETH dollar. When I look at ETH dollar, let's get index chart up. Now, as you know, I'm always looking at that. Whenever I see equal measured moves, equal swings, or three-wave corrections, I always think that that is potentially a correction. And for me, when I see a three-wave pattern, the minimum retrace is a 786 fib and potentially new lows. So here in ETH, if this was a three-wave correction, then underneath 1510, which is important support, which is the 50% retrace, we are likely to continue lower to 1150. Again, pretty nasty, you know, another further 30%. So at the moment, this is major support for me. This is major support for me for a couple of reasons, not just because 1510 is a 50% retrace, but because it's also a textbook equal measure move. When they line up together and you get that kind of confluence, it kind of really adds weight to a level. So we're holding underneath these weekly moving averages. It's not very bullish, but I'm really interested to see what ETH dollar does at 1510. And underneath 1510, let's go back and do our projections the other way. Then underneath 1510, unless we can recover 1785, ETH is still in a downtrend, and I'm going to look for much lower from here. So I hope that's helpful. That's just ETH and Bitcoin. I have some other bigger views. I'm going to record a separate video later. Ripple, Solana, ADA, Rune, and Coinbase stock chart. If there's anything you'd like me to look at, send me a